All right, we're dealing with Unit 9 of Intermediate Greek, and we're going to be looking at a passage from 1 Timothy in this assignment. Let me remind you what you have coming up here this week. First of all, you need to review chapters 23, 24, and 25 in the Mounts of Grammar, Basics of Biblical Greek, and that would be the third edition. But whatever grammar you used in intro, you certainly are able to go and look at that. Let me find my syllabus, and I can tell you what you need to be looking at particularly. That will be the aorist active and middle, and the aorist and future passive. So it is, and the perfect indicative, all of those are included. So aorist and active and middle, aorist and future passive, and then the perfect indicative. So just review that, and you remember the rules on that, just go over it. If you understand it, move on. If you don't, then go back and dig a little more until you get a good grip on it. The second thing that you need to do is to do your translation, and that is going to be from 1 Timothy 4, 6 through 16, and that is, of course, your Tuesday night assignment for individuals, and it also will be the group collaboration assignment for Group Alpha, for the group, rather, that will be working on this. It may not be Group Alpha, but the group and the individuals are working on the same passages. The difference is individuals are going to be working on it by themselves or in a team, whatever you like to do if you have a partner that you like to study with. But the group will be collaborating, coming up with one report, and everybody in the group has to participate in that and make contributions to it. Then your Saturday assignment is going to be the phrasing, exegesis, and sermon outline, as is the normal thing. And that, of course, is due on Saturday night. I'll review that in just a minute. But your quiz this week is a vocabulary quiz and covers entrenchard from Gerogos to Hippocrates actually, and that will be due on Wednesday at midnight. So that covers your assignments as for each of the week. So remember, when you do your exegesis, whether you're doing it individually or in the group, to wrestle with the text and then go to the commentaries. Remember, when you're doing the outline, the sermon outline, that you want to make sure that it does communicate the message of the text. You don't want to just come up with 3 points in a poem, but you want to make sure that you're dealing with the text. You don't have to deal with all of it. You can pick out a part of it if you want to, but make sure it comes straight from the text. Also, don't forget, those of you who are not in the group, that you are due to do an evaluation of the group report by Saturday night. So here's a review. Your grammar review and translation need to be done by Tuesday at midnight. Your quiz by Wednesday at midnight. The group collaboration must be posted by Friday at midnight, and then the remainder of your individual work, which would be your phrasing, exegesis, and sermon outline, would be due by Saturday at midnight, as will your group evaluation at that point. All right, one other thing I wanted to do is to talk a little bit about the passage, and in this unit, what I want to do is simply give you some things to look at as you wrestle with the text, whether you're working as individuals or with the group The first thing I would suggest, and this is always important, but in this passage it is especially important, but look at the context from the previous chapter. See what Paul has been doing, what instruction he's been giving to Timothy, and see how then that relates to what he's trying to say in this specific passage in 1 Timothy 4, 6 through 16. So what is the situation that Timothy is going to face as he continues to provide leadership in this congregation where he is? I also would encourage you to look carefully at the Mount's exegetical notes. He raises some good questions. Some of them may be a little bit stretching for you, but that would be a good thing. But I read through them. I didn't see anything that I thought you would have super difficulty with. So I would encourage you to pay close attention to that. Look up those words that you need to look up, and it will be. I think it'll be helpful to you in dealing with the passage. All right, here's some questions to think about as you go through here. First of all, in verse 6, does the word diakonos mean the same thing that we mean when we talk about Baptist deacons? I am not certain that it does, but I'd like for you to think about that. You look at it in the context of what Paul has talked about in the earlier chapter, and then you think about it in the context of what he's saying here. It seems to me that this word diakonos has a much broader meaning and application in the church than simply what we think of as a Baptist deacon. Another thing in verse 6 that I think is important, that would certainly be worthwhile for you to spend some time thinking about, is this phrase, tes kales didaskalias. And that's something that refers not to a teacher, but it rather is teachings. So think about what that means and think about how that applies. Very interesting word in verse 7. It is gymnaze. And if you think a little bit, you probably can think about the origin of this word and the word we get from it in English. And that helps you, I think, to understand the meaning of that word. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. Is Paul talking about physical or spiritual exercise here? That's the important question, because he makes a comparison in verse 8 that you need to look at very closely. Down in verse 12, the question for you is, how would you understand? If you were thinking about this, Paul's writing to you, how would you understand and accept Paul's advice in verse 12? It is some very good advice, and it's very meaningful in Timothy's context, and I think probably in ours as well. And then in verse 16, what do you think Paul's communication is in verse 16 to Timothy and to us? Because the communication that he makes to Timothy, I think, also applies very well to us. Think about those things and work through them as you wrestle with the text, and we will see you in the next video.